For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Hello and welcome to StratNewsGlobal. The Indian Army is celebrating its annual Army Day for the first time outside Delhi in 2023, in keeping with the new decision by all the three services. And this is going to be the first time that the Indian Army Day will be celebrated in Bangalore on 15th of January. On the eve of that Army Day celebrations in Bangalore, I am pleased to have a different Simply Nitin format for this week, where I have with me the Chief of the Indian Army, or the Army Chief as we call them, General Manoj Pande, speaking to me in an exclusive interview. I am Nitin Gokhale. Welcome to this program, General, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
So let me start off with the most obvious question. You are celebrating the Army Day this year outside New Delhi for the first time. Why is it happening and what do you think is the significance?
Well, Nitin, the basic idea was to be able to reach a wider civil society and the wider community. And in that respect, we thought it is a good idea to move out of Delhi and give us an opportunity to engage with the community better. So to begin with, we have chosen Bangalore as the first venue for the Army Day. And every year we will now go across various parts of the country. So maybe next time we'll have our Eastern Command organizing it, maybe in Kolkata, thereafter western side and northern side, and likewise. So that is largely the aim. And I must also add here that it is not just a one-off, parade or the customary at home, but this time we have spread these celebrations over 1 month, or rather activities over 1 month. So it is during this 1 month that we have taken a number of programs, initiatives, so that awareness about the army amongst the common population increases. We are also able to engage with them better, take up certain important initiatives which are for the larger good of the community. So I think this has been the basic purpose and aim of moving it out of Delhi.
It's a very good thought, and it sort of gives a good connect to people
Yes.
who normally see this from afar and sort of look at it as something distant.
Absolutely.
Which will bring, I'm sure, the army much closer to the people. As it is, there's a lot of reverence
Yes.
about the army, but it will bring people a lot closer to the army. So that's a
Yes.
good initiative. So on that note, I think you said in your annual press conference that this is a year of transformation,
Yes.
that you have sort of
Yes.
taken it up.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned 4 verticals to it.
Yes.
Can you give us a little more elaboration on what exactly the transformation means and what are you concentrating on?
Right. So I'll give a little background. Nitin, the drivers for change or the transformation, we looked at 4 issues as to why transformation, because there are unprecedented changes happening in the geostrategic environment. You have the limitless potential of the niche or new technologies that is there. The character of warfare is changing. And then lastly, you also have, there are a large number of changes taking place in the socio-economic domain. So these were the 4 drivers we thought it is important for us as a military or as an army to change or transform into a more modern, agile, technologically oriented army, to be better future ready, so as to be able to face our contemporary and future security challenges in a more effective manner. So that was the background why we thought of transformation.
Right.
And like you mentioned, we have identified 5 key domains for transformation. And these essentially would be, the first is force structuring and modernization, force structuring and optimization.
Right.
The second is modernization and technology infusion.
Okay.
Third is the human resource management philosophy. And I am referring to the Agnipath scheme, which was launched sometime 6 months back.
Yes.
So these 3 were the key things. There was also this aspect of jointness and integration. And lastly was the need to refine our systems, processes and functioning
Sure.
to bring in greater operational, administrative and functional efficiency and become efficient in the way we do our job.
Sure.
So these were the 5 key pillars for transformation that we identified. And consequently, 2023 is, we have announced it to be the year of transformation. And during this year, we have laid down clear objectives, deliverables, timelines as to how we intend achieving this. We have also laid down responsibilities.
Oh, that's good.
So that is the larger aim.
Right.
But of course, as you would agree with me, the transformation will not happen within 1 year.
No, it can't.
But this will then roll on.
The basis will be
Absolutely. So we've got the framework, I believe, correct.
there. Right.
And it is now for us to follow through it and, reach the correct end state.
So all of these 5 domains really will require longer conversation, but we will come to it later.
Yes.
Let me take a couple of them. Optimization and modernization.
Yes.
Or, the optimization will come in later, but modernization.
Yes.
And I think I read somewhere you mentioned that you aim to increase the state-of-the-art equipment profile of the army in the coming 5-7 years.
Yes.
So what is the what exactly are you planning on that front?
So that is only one part of it.
Right.
But what we realized in the last couple of years is based on what we saw and maybe direct fallout of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the pandemic situation, we realized that we need to become self-reliant. We also need to have robust and more secure supply chains. Then only will we be able to better handle the security challenges as we move forward.
Yeah.
So that was the basic reason.
Sure.
And I think there are 2 aspects to it. One is to have capability development through self-reliance. That is the first. And the second is, of course, modernization and technology infusion.
Sure.
So both these
Are interlinked basically.
as important. And alongside this comes the initiative for Atmanirbharta,
Right.
toward which we are fully aligned, we are fully supportive. And we think as we go forward, this is something that is in fact the need of the hour for us to be becoming self-reliant and less dependent or zero dependence on outside supply chains.
Is that one of the major lessons from the Russia-Ukraine war?
Indeed, because we realized that there were sustenance issues which we have now overcome.
Right.
So I think this lesson was loud and clear, and that is how we have.
Yeah.
And we have, I must say, made good beginnings, especially in terms of Atmanirbharta.
Right.
And if I were to quote a few figures,
Yes, sure.
this year, in financial year 2023, we've got about 52 AONs, as you would know, that is in principle
Acceptance
approval
of necessity.
for
Yes.
capital procurement,
Right.
amounting to almost 1 lakh crore.
Right.
Last year, out of whatever money we spent on capital procurement, almost 83 were contracts for our defense, indigenous defense industry.
Right.
Going forward, if you look at a span of 7 to 8 years, we feel we'll have procurement of almost 1 lakh crore from indigenous sources,
Sure.
as well as a total requirement of about 7 to 8 lakh crores.
Wow.
So that is the kind of potential that we are looking at. Part of this initiative is also certain projects or certain schemes which the government has come up with. You would have heard of the Make 1 and Make 2 schemes.
Sure.
So Make 2 is where you place contracts under certain provisions on the private industry.
Sure.
So we have almost 43 ongoing Make 2 projects which are on the cards, amounting to about 27,000 crores. We are also looking at how do you encourage the culture of innovation. So there are these IDEX schemes,
Correct.
of which we have close to 30 on the table, out of which 10 have more or less fructified.
Right.
So overall, there is emphasis on encouraging the local defense industry, hand-holding them initially, and we find there is good potential. And we also want to leverage the technology, the young, bright mind, the startup ecosystem that is available within the country.
Correct.
And we believe we need to now indigenize to modernize, so to speak. So that is something which I have
That's,
said.
I think, is a good line. Indigenize to modernize.
Yes. And likewise, as far as the private industry goes, we have taken a number of measures in terms of their hand holding,
Right.
be it the trials and testing procedures, simplifying it further, be it making our ranges available for the testing of weapon systems. We have also organized forward area tours to the industry representatives, so they are able to better understand
First-hand
what our requirements are, and likewise a number of other steps. So I think this is a good beginning, and I see a lot of promise potential. So as we go forward, I think I would say that we will be prepared to fight future wars with
based on Indian technology and Indian
solutions. Yes.
Yeah, Indian solutions.
Yes.
That's a good way of sort of looking at the future. Also, your rebalance plans from the Western Front to Northern Front. How has that progressed over these say last 1 year or so?
Yes. So you would recall the events of April-May 2020. Again, because of the unpredictable nature and what happened in Eastern Ladakh, that is something which triggered this thought of rebalancing our forces, and it made us realize that northern borders would be our primary front, and hence this rebalancing. Thereafter, we had asked certain formations to relocate, reorbited them, and I must say all of it is now completed. So that is in place, and when required, we are also able to induct certain additional forces which are required.
So you got logistics right for that now?
Yes, but if you were to ask me as to what are we doing now on the northern borders, as to what our focus areas would be, I can list out 3-4 issues. One obviously is the ISR.
Yes.
For us to be able to keep areas under better surveillance, right from the tactical or the immediate depth along the LAC up to the depth areas. And that is by a mix of both our surveillance means at the tactical level, including the strategic surveillance means, the satellite imageries, etc. So that has been one of our focus areas. And towards that, we are making maximum use of drones, UAVs, both.
Yes.
The mini UAVs, which look at a range of about 10 kilometers. Then there is the next set, which is about 100 kilometers. Then you have others. So we are looking at surveillance, air-based surveillance in this continuum.
So you have layers for surveillance.
Absolutely. Basically. So that is something where we have made very good progress. Second is, of course, because we have a fairly large number of troops now deployed in those areas, the habitat and their comfort has been one of our priority areas, not only for men, but also for the equipment. You have now heavier or larger weapon platforms, so they need good controlled conditions. So that has been our focus. As also on infrastructure, in terms of certain all-weather connectivity to these areas, as well as to have alternate connectivity should your primary means of or the primary connectivity get disrupted for some reason. So these have been our 3-4 focus areas in terms of what we're doing.
Which is good to know, because that challenge still remains, isn't it? If you can give us an idea of what is the adversary on the northern front doing at the moment, what are China's current thinking as you assess it?
Yes. So essentially, I'll divide it in 2 parts. So currently, what is happening on the northern borders? So there has been no significant reduction, I would say. In fact, there has been no reduction in terms of the troop level on the other side. Opposite our eastern theatre, there has been a slight increase.
I see.
But from our side, we have corresponding and matching numbers of formations, units which are available deployed there. We've also catered for adequate reserves to be able to deal with any contingency. So in terms of the troops level, I think we are very well poised. So I would say we have a very robust defensive posture
And even in in Arunachal Pradesh, where there were gaps, once about 1.5 years ago, we
Yes,
met in
yes.
Anini of all places.
Yes.
And so I'm sure after that, lots of improvement has taken place in terms of connectivity, in terms of troop deployment in Arunachal Pradesh.
Yes, we have, and the road connectivity has improved. We also have certain forward infrastructure in terms of forward helipads, our storage facilities.
Right.
I must also mention the communication infrastructure, which invariably gets missed out.
Yes.
With our NFS and the OFC connectivity and the satellite and the microwave connectivity, we made a good headway in that direction. So overall, I find along the northern borders, I think we are very well poised.
That's good to know. And that brings me to the first questions. One of the part of answers you mentioned about the Agnipath scheme.
Yes.
Now that it is rolled out from 1st of January,
yes.
When do you expect them to get deployed? And that question that remains in the people's mind, we will come to that maybe 6 months later or 8 months later, that how effective these people will be.
Yes.
But what is the current status? They have now started training as far as their induction is concerned?
Yes. So the numbers that we were to recruit during the first year,
yes,
we have divided them into 2 batches.
Right.
The first batch has commenced training on 1st of January.
Sure.
And the second one will start their training sometime first week of March or on the 1st March.
Okay.
And then for the first 31 weeks, that is close to 8 months, they will do their initial training at our regimental centers.
Yes.
Before they then move out to the units.
Correct.
Which are deployed both in field as well as peace stations.
Sure.
So this is the kind of training regime that we are looking at. I must mention the initial response has been very encouraging in terms of the quality of intake, if I may.
Okay.
In terms of their motivation levels, their enthusiasm. From whatever I hear from the center commandants who I happen to speak to, it is very, very encouraging. The training has begun in right earnest because from the earlier longest training duration, we have now made it 31 weeks.
I was going to say that it's going to be more intense than before.
Yes, intense, as well as we have now looking at inducting more technological solutions. Maybe we will be looking at close to 500 simulators of different types for small arms weapons training, for driving, etc. So all that has happened.
Oh, that's good to know.
To account for this less training duration.
Right.
So I must say this training has begun. What we have also done is, since this was a new scheme, so we had to come up with a software wherein Agniveer, right from the time he is recruited till the time he begins or undergoes his training in the center, then he moves to a unit.
Sure.
And then when he completes 4 years, entire database pertaining to the Agniveer, we've got a software now, we're calling it ASAN.
Okay.
Army software for Agniveer administration and networking.
Okay.
So that has been rolled out.
So that it will assess the full spectrum.
Yes. Okay. So assessment, evaluation is one part of it.
Right.
But everything,
record
right,
keeping will also happen.
Pay and allowances, etc. It will all depend on
medical
this.
history, all that will come in there.
What skills he acquires during his 4 years. So it will all be included, encapsulated in this software. As far as the assessment goes, I think that has to be a very critical part because you needed a system which is not only fair, transparent, but also credible and foolproof. So we've got this, wherein an Agniveer will be assessed at regular duration at 3 levels. And it will be all transparent and on this automated
based on technology automation
database.
Yeah.
So we require to train our people in the regimental centers to be able to operate the software. The initial feeding of data of the Agniveers was another major exercise.
Sure.
So we've got through all this in the first batch.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure, I think we will move forward.
I'm sure it's in place. So you also announced in your press conference induction of women in artillery.
Yes.
How have you arrived at that thing? Is it a part of the overall plan that Army has for more women induction, or how is it that decision been taken?
You would recall we were the first service to have inducted women in the soldiers' rank.
Sure.
This happened in 2019, where we inducted women soldiers in the Corps of Military Police. Then there was a gap of 2 years.
Correct.
So this induction of women soldiers through the Agnipath scheme will continue.
Oh, okay. That's good.
And in terms of women in the officers' cadre, we have 10 arms and services where women are there. They're doing well.
Right.
Post the decision to grant them permanent commission, now there is gender parity, wherein these women who will now undergo their selection to the rank of colonel,
correct,
will now be able to be commanding troops in these selected arms and services.
Yes.
So they are now prepared, or they are ready for taking up leadership roles in the future.
Yes.
We had to put them through certain mandatory career courses, which we have done. So I think there is good promise for the women officers.
Yes.
And you would also know, I must also highlight that we have amongst these women this time 5 to 6 who have qualified on the Defence Services Staff College course.
That's good to know. That's going to be a good mix.
Encouraging. Yeah. We have women who are now getting trained and commissioned already as combat aviation pilots. We have, you would have heard, a woman officer getting deployed to Siachen.
Yes, we just heard that, yes.
Amongst the women soldiers, we have 6 meritorious sportswomen who we are now grooming them for greater laurels achievements in the future. And very recently, you had an all-women contingent
to go into the UN.
25 in the UN.
Yes.
So
artillery was a logical step.
Yes.
Induction.
So that is the next that we'll do.
Yeah.
We have sent the proposal to the government, and I'm sure it will get approved.
I'm sure about that. That's there. Let me come to the more a larger sort of discussion or a picture about first of all jointness and then theaterization.
Yes.
So what's the progress on that? Because it's inevitable.
Yes.
And so how are you going to look at it, and how is the army looking at this upcoming changes that will inevitably be there in war fighting?
Yes. So I believe that to be able to better meet our security challenges in the future, I think the tri-services synergy and jointness is sine qua non or an imperative. And towards this, we have been emphasizing and taken steps to achieve better jointness. And when I say jointness, I'm referring to jointness in spirit, in thought, in culture, in ethos.
Right.
And then integration, integration of various systems between the 3 services, be it communication, logistic, trainings, and then the final thing is the theaterization, which will
be the eventual step, I suppose.
Yes. And so in a theater or a theater command, what you are looking at is a single commander in a given geographical area being responsible for conduct of all types of address security challenges of military operations in an integrated manner.
Right.
So that is something which we are currently discussing amongst the 3 of us, and those deliberations are currently on.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yes.
So in this context, there is this thought about start small in looking at integration, jointness, by doing joint planning, and then start looking at how do you integrate all the 3 services. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think that is very important. I find, or I feel, one of the key components or aspects of jointness is for each of us to be able to understand the processes, the work culture, ethos of the other service.
Right.
I feel that is critical, so that you understand what they can achieve, what are their systems and processes. The better we understand that, I think the confidence will grow. So that is key.
Okay.
Some of it we are already doing in terms of conducting exercise jointly, our representatives attending the other service exercise and vice versa.
Right.
But I think we need to do more, and that is what I have been saying to my officers, that we need to understand the other two services, visit their units formation, see as to how their processes work,
Correct.
especially during operations. That is critical. So I think we are moving in the right direction.
So I think that's a good beginning to get into that mode. One final question now, that when we say that we have rebalanced towards northern front as the primary front,
Yes.
does that mean, and people would want to know, because those who sort of study Pakistan, who observe Pakistan, that the threat from on the western front is no longer as big as it was, or is that also possible that the Indian Army is now capable of handling any threat from on the western front, and therefore more confident to handle two front in case it comes to the crunch, really?
So, I mean, without going into the specific of what this rebalancing has involved, it is only that the primary front, we now take northern borders as the primary front.
Right.
Having rebalance, we will maintain adequate capability, adequate resources along the western borders to be able to meet our military objectives, military aims.
Right.
So rebalancing, I feel, needs to be seen in that context.
Correct. Exactly, because otherwise there is this feeling that we no longer consider Pakistan a threat or even a challenge.
Yes. No, we've been carrying out review of our threat assessment from time to time.
Right.
And I mentioned what was the reason.
Sure.
And I think for some time, perhaps the northern borders will continue to remain our primary front.
Sure.
Yes.
But as you said, I think there are adequate reserves available for any threat from the western front also.
Oh yes, and then you would also remember we have units and formations from one front who are tasked,
the dual task formations
in their secondary role, so they are prepared for, so that flexibility, inherent flexibility
is there
in the larger operational matrix does exist.
That's good to know, and I think that's where the Indian Army scores over many other armies, with the adaptability, the flexibility that Indian Army inherently has in it. So congratulations on that, and once again, very happy Army Day 2023 for you and all your troops and the officers.
Thank you very much, Nitin.
A pleasure.